Hey,
Okay, go.
everybody. My name is Raj Nation. I am the chief pitch artist of Startup Hype Man, where we specialize in helping startup founders not suck at how they pitch themselves. A lot of what we do is being in and around the startup ecosystem every single day. And that includes not just being around pitches, but being around product development, being around product roadmaps, being around go to market strategies. And of course, what's been most top of mind for the last few years is AI. You can't go anywhere without running into those two letters, whether it is helping you send an email, whether it is coming up with something funny you can share with your friends, or whether it is building the next great product. Baotran with Tran VC and Patent PC has been one of the leading voices on the legal side of AI. And so, Bao, um, with everything that you've been coming across recently, vibe coding has been the word of the day or the phrase of the day for the last several months. Let's start with, for those who aren't aware, what is vibe coding, and then from there, when might it make sense for a founder to vibe code versus when might it not make sense?
Rajiv, right? Thanks for the intro, and your background is really impressive. You work with a lot of startup founders, so you know all the issues with startups. I think you forgot to mention that you're the chapter lead for what was that?
Startup grind Chicago. Yeah, sorry, I did not. I
Grind.
did forget to mention.
Very prestigious, right? So let me, take let's talk about vibe coding. So AI, yeah, the LLM machines got started around the COVID timeframe. I myself played with GPT-2 open source code. And one of the things that the LLMs are trained on is not only just the content from magazines and publications, but also on GitHub codes, right? And so a natural use for them is in coding. I saw a report today that from Anthropic, in fact, that the U.S. is one of the leading users of AI, but it's very interesting that the use case depends on the specific area. So, for example, in Silicon Valley, the use case is heavily for software coding. In New York, the use case is heavily for financial prediction modeling, things like that. In Hawaii, evidently, there's the huge use for it, but for planning visits and vacation trips, and it's natural, right? If you're in that particular space, you're going to use your technology for whatever the dominant industries that you're involved with. So in Silicon Valley, and I'm sure it's not just Silicon Valley, but all across the world, there's a lot of software startup company. Software eats the world, as they say. So a very natural use because the LLMs are trained on, the open source code. They obviously can do coding, and so people started playing with that. So they started dumping in their source code, and then they start saying, "Hey, do modify this code to do to a different function." That's one way of vibe coding is to do that. The other way is a lighter way of coding. So, for example, you can go to an LLM and tell it to say, "Hey, I want a web application that does X, Y, and Z," and you can paste in your example user interface into it, and then it renders a web app. So far in my experience, most of the vibe coding has been focusing on web applications. When it comes down into mobile apps, into more specific engineering heavy software, that's where the coders need to get involved more and more. And recently, the AI isn't perfect, right? So you need to babysit it. And recently, I saw there's a trend where you got um, they call it the more mature, the people nearing the retirement age, babysitting the LLM models and fixing the errors as they go along. So apparently, for programmers that are more on the thinking of retirement and taking it easy, that's becoming a very active space where they can come in and they babysit the LLMs and clean up the errors. So vibe coding is a quick way to code. It does generate some errors that you have to clean up. And of course, if you scale the code that was there, you need to then actually bring in good engineering discipline to make it run efficiently, and make it an app that can, run millions of users. But the good news is it brings coding capability to everybody, to non-technical users. So now all of a sudden it expands the ability to the base of programmers to the mom and pops, and it makes it very easy to create a software app.
If I am vibe coding, is it my software to keep and to own? Or because it's vibe coding, is it automatically, like, for lack of better phrasing, in the public domain?
No, the code that the software generates, if you're using a paid subscription service, then that code belongs to you right now. The issue of there's an unresolved issue of, okay, if somehow the machine inadvertently copies an open source code into your code, what are the implications there? Because you didn't do it. It's a machine, but nonetheless, let's say a portion of your code accidentally include open source coding. So there are risks associated with that. So, a number of software companies, they constrain that to, that's an issue, basically. So if you're super worried about open source inclusion of that into your code, I think you need to think a little bit, use it more carefully. There are certainly tools that would check whether or not there's an overlap between your code and the open source code. And so if you're worried about that, use those tools and then extract out the portions that are open source, and then fix up the code so that it no longer, it's your own code versus a copy of an open source code that might expose you to the terms of the open source licensing requirement.
So essentially, I'm just trying to think of an analogy here. If I were to let's take technology out of the equation for purpose of this. If I were to go to the library and rent a book on Napoleon Bonaparte, and then I go and I write my own biography of Napoleon Bonaparte, and in writing that, I, literally just let's just think about like writing on paper or something like that, physical paper, and I cut a few pages out of that library's book. Bear with me on this, and that goes into the overall biography that I'm writing. Technically, the library still owns those few pages, and I got to give that back to the library. Is that sort of is that close enough here to this, like, hey, if you're using code that someone else owns as part of your vibe coding, that fraction of your product is still belongs to them, or you have to get permission from them to do anything with it, or they could claim some level of ownership?
Yeah, I think there is there's a fuzzy layer called fair use, right? You are entitled to use the code, for commentaries or non-commercial use. But if and that factor depends on, it also depends on the amount that you use. So if you wholesale copy a book, obviously that's not fair use. However, if you just take one line out of it, I think the most people would basically provide an attribution to the book, but you probably could say, hey, this line came from this author, and I'm quoting him. So that's the proper way to lift sections out of a book. Now, in coding, things get, I think, a little bit messier because it's not going to be, I think the AI is unlikely to generate identical code, right? And they're probably going to have something, maybe a similar block of code, maybe 5-10 lines, something like that. And so the question is, what is if you have very, very small amount of common code, probably nobody's gonna be bothered by that. But if you start lifting out, an entire module, then I think that the open source license term, the requirements of open source agreement might come into play. So the safer thing to do is to identify, use the AI generated code, run a tool that would detect if you have some overlap into the open source repositories. And then once you identify those, you either remove them or you design your own. Don't use the open source code if you're afraid of the requirement of the open source. Now, having said that, there's nothing wrong with open source philosophy. I think that if you compartmentalize the code that might be overlapping in with the open source coding, and if it's relating to a utility function where it's not really a part of your product key features, I don't see any reason why don't you just compartmentalize that section out and then contribute that back into the open source. So I think that there are advantages to open source coding, and as long as it doesn't impact your business model, right? So that's why you see now open source for the AI source code is becoming the rage, particularly in China. The view is, if you open source your code in there, you have thousands of AI fixing it for you for free, and they improve on it for free. And so you do have a business reason to contribute code to the open source. Now, you don't want to do that if it impacts your business model. So, in the case of, let's say, a Meta, where they open source Llama, what is that reason? Well, the reason is the benefits of overall improving, right? But they do have a clause in there that says, well, if you are competing against them, like you have a certain, I forgot what it is, but if you use it for more than a few million, there's some number in there that says if you use above a certain threshold, you need to come to them for a license. So they basically have a protection mechanism against, let's say, somebody who's using Llama to compete against Llama, I think.
Now, let's talk a little bit more about this, what's protected and what's not. Anthropic recently settled for $1.5 billion, specifically on how they were training their AI model. It looks like that Anthropic was downloading pirated books to train its AI. Now, this is the largest copyright settlement in US history. But it came down to Anthropic was downloading pirated books to train its AI systems. Can you kind of just explain and I don't know how tuned in you were to this lawsuit, but like, what are the considerations here, and how do we take that lesson? And if you're a founder who's building, does that change how you think about which provider you're going to use? Are you going to, because no one is really using their own native AI, right? They're using Claude, they're using OpenAI, they're using Anthropic. So does this need to change maybe which source provider they're going with?
Well, I think from if you're using these LLMs as a user, you're not really responsible for for their action. So I practically I don't think it's going to impact the user that much. Now, it's the same thing as if saying you watch YouTube, and in the early days of YouTube, there was a lot of content that was not uploaded from video, from a lot of videos from CDs and things like that uploaded, and then people just watch them. So as a user, you have very, very little risk. Now, the platform would have the risk, because if they're aware of pirated content, they have to do something about it, right? They have to remove it, or some sort of structure a deal with the content creator. So I think you can.
That could then impact how your product would run, right? If you're the founder, because if they make a structural change to their LLM, potentially whatever your product is using that source material in some way. So then it might actually inadvertently change your product, right?
Yeah, I could see downstream. Let's say, hypothetically, they have these artwork that's done by a Picasso, let's say, and the LLM was trained by a Picasso on the Picasso painting, and then you, as an end user, uh, write in a request, a prompt that says, in the style of Picasso, render this drawing X, Y, and Z factors, right? And it's going to come out with something that looks very similar to Picasso style. So there might be some residual liability, but as long, I think from a user perspective, it's uh, as long as it's not a copy of a Picasso painting and you're reproducing it, I think uh, that you might be able to claim the fair use aspect of it, that you were inspired by Picasso, but you certainly weren't making an exact a duplicate of it. Now the problem is different for the LLM provider because they are actually using they're being trained on the Picasso painting. So that is a use, a copyright use, right? And so from a user perspective, I don't see a significant liability unless you tell it to say, give me a Picasso painting, render me a Picasso painting. And then if it's give you an exact copy of a Picasso, then you would have a copyright problem. Now, from a case of a training, the LLM training, that I think is more problematic for the LLM vendors because they are actually using the content in as a part of their product, and so they would have some copyright issues.
So in this sort of scenario, you have a lot of new companies that are using one of three or one of four LLMs. It's either going to be, I don't know what Google's called. It's not Gemini, it's something else. Google has one, OpenAI has one, and then there's Anthropic, there's Claude, and there's maybe one more. That's Llama, will be another one. As these LLMs are being sorted out, like, we're still in like the Wild West era, and there will be some settling down probably in the next like 1 to 4 years of what's valid and what's not. Um, is this as someone building a product, you said, hey, it's not really on the end user, but to me, the difference is when you're watching a YouTube video, you're purely consuming, you're not creating. You are creating in this case predicated off of what someone else has developed. So, is there a possible scenario? Because, Anthropic's got to pay out $1.5 billion where they're now going to increase their query fees, or they're going to have something that hits the end creator to make up their losses.
Yeah, I agree that ultimately is going to have to come out somewhere, right? And again, when you look at the YouTube example, ultimately they paid they made agreements with the company, and that ultimately, that cost ultimately is going to be reflected into the business model. I suspect that short term it won't be a factor because all these companies are racing to become the LLM company. You got Anthropic, OpenAI, and then Llama and all those guys, right? So right now, short term, it's a grab the market share, but once it all settles down, ultimately the content cost is going to be a part of the cost of business, and then it ultimately has to go somewhere. So long term, I do think you're right. It is going to be passed on to the end user, but probably, but in a way, I think it's fair. I mean, if you look at the way the LLM engine, the Google search engine right now, I think I talked to a lot of marketers, and they're very much afraid that hey, Google is ingesting all of these content that I've created, and then now with the new model where the AI answers directly the question. Um, you've done all the work for free for Google's benefit, right? So I think there's there's the pros and cons of the cost, but I think in the end we need to balance the services provided by the content creator with with the ease of use and the low cost, and so it all I think will work out in the long run.
What are the 2 to 3 legal considerations you would advise a startup founder has who's building an AI right now? And that could be around um, privacy, data privacy. It could be around protecting your IP. It could be around anything that you think it makes, is top 3 considerations or top 2 considerations when building with AI?
Yes, I talk to a lot of founders and investors as well. And one of the first question, I go to these conferences, the investor says, "What's your moat?" Right? Because they're very worried now that with vibe coding, people can copy concepts very quickly. Right. I was able to create 5 free apps to help people um, uh, take inventory of their IP assets, value their IP, the valuation in the company, um, determine the return on investment for a trademark, and determine the return on investment for a patent. And I was able to do that in a matter of like 2 or 3 hours. These are 5 different apps that are fairly sophisticated. And I
Yeah.
interacted with the LLM by language and I control them, right? And so what it means is that very sophisticated apps these days can be built very quickly. And so what it means is that if you are so excited about your product and your concept and you put it on a Kickstarter, let's use that as an example, other people will look at it and determine, oh, that's a good idea. Let me do the same. So the moat is a very important question. And that moat issue is I think, very common in Kickstarter. All you do is Google up, Kickstarter and copycats. What you're going to find out is that uh, in order to succeed in Kickstarter, you have to get people to like your idea. You have to promote them. You have to give them these fancy videos that explain the innards of how your product works, right? And then you start your campaign, and hopefully you have a lot of responders, a lot of buyers, people who back your project. So if I were a manufacturer, a low cost country somewhere, thank you very much for giving me the idea, right? I can watch the backing volume, and I can say, oh, okay, that they've already validated that idea, and they've already given me the complete spec. So boom. So you'll find very frequently that at the end of the funding your project, when the project got funded in Kickstarter, you already got a competitor that's already actually selling products already.
Yeah, it's already on Temu.
Yeah, exactly. So the same issue exists with vibe coding.
Hmm.
Traditionally as a startup, what you do is you want to run you want to show the investors traction, right? So what do? Well, you get free trial and people go in and sign up and they have traction, right? And then you in your go to market, you'll say, oh yeah, we have traction, we have millions of users. Well, guess what? Those tractions you generated, they're probably one of those freemium model where it's free for now, right? And if I were a software coding company, anywhere, it doesn't have to be, in an offshore. It could be in the U.S. I just sit there and watch the company that has traction. So, okay, they validated the idea for me. So thank you. And then, so what do you do there in that case? So traditionally, startups, what they do is they say, oh yeah, our moat is the fact that we move fast. Well, vibe coding has taken that away. Then you say, well, our moat is our people. Well, guess what? If you just look around, even OpenAI is not safe with the people, right? They can be gone in an instant. What other moats do you have? You have a quick go-to-market strategy. Other people can just latch on to that because now you have you've educated the market for them. So
Yeah.
now that moat is gone, right? And what other moat do you have that's left? I can't think of anything else. So IP, that's really something that software developer founders have ignored in the SaaS, in the last 5 years with the SaaS thing. I think their own investors tell them, hey, the patent system's too expensive, too slow. You just basically run as fast as you can. And whoever gets there first wins, right? Well, guess what? The rules of the game have changed. Now with vibe coding, and the widespread availability of talents and the ability to jump ship at a moment's notice, So I think most of the moats that you have, I would guess, would be reduced down to two or three. Number one is the founder as a moat. The founder is the core company because they're not likely to bail and jump ship, right? And um, an IP because the rest of your software they can be cloned very quickly. So
Sure.
speed to market is now less of a factor. I think the quality of the people is still very important, but as we've seen in the past month or two, even big companies lose people. So what makes you think that you as a small company can retain your people if you think that that's a moat that you have? If anything, your people may actually be your competitor, right?
I would say in addition to IP, the other strong moat, I think increasingly so now versus before, is community. I think it always was valuable, but if you can build a community around your product, it's very hard to get a community to leave your product. And it doesn't need to be that they're all users, but if there are, or excuse me, not that they're all paying customers, but if you can have more or higher quality people in your product ecosystem, then they become the people who advocate for you to the public, who
Yes.
are eagerly awaiting your next product launch, and who, because they essentially like your brand and they like your, not to confuse it with vibe coding, they like your vibe, they like your aura, they want to stick with you. And so I think those things become more and more important. And I'll caveat that with, it's harder to get there if you can be replaced in the early days, and you can be replaced in the early days if you're not protected.
Exactly. What you're talking about is the incumbent's advantage, right?
Hmm.
eBay stuff, anybody can replicate now, but even if you can replicate them, who's going to go to your site?
Yeah. Yeah. We know to go to eBay by default if we want to get something on an online auction.
Yes, and so that speaks to the power of branding, and that's where a trademark would be helpful there. But yeah, you definitely makes a very strong point there. But I think that before you get to become an established brand, you have this zone of, the survival zone, I guess. I forgot the name of that, but it's basically a zone of death or whatever it is that you have to walk
Yeah.
through.
Yeah. The
And
pit
that
of despair, I think, might be the
yeah,
term.
yeah, that's a valley of yeah, they call it a valley of death or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's where I think vibe coding has changed this dynamic.
Yeah.
Is before you become an eBay, somebody can catch you at that stage, and then it's a race to okay, do it's a race for marketing for growth. And my guess is that that's what all these LLM companies are doing. They're racing to get to become the top dog. And this, each industry you have two or three company at max. The automotive industry has that. The the search, the internet search. There's only one top dog, and then there's Bing, I guess Google and Bing, and that's about it, right? So in each space, you're gonna have one or two winner that becomes the brand, and you try to go there, and so yeah, so IP includes I think both the patents as well as the trademark. And you have some experience in going through the trademark process yourself, Rajiv. So
Yeah.
it's yeah, it's so these little things you do that a founder can think in advance is going to help their smooth their journey, if anything,
Hmm.
right? We've seen many companies that start these companies do not think about in advance about the IP. That's the last thing they do, and by then it might be too late. So that's yeah. So that is a suggestion is to think through what are your moats and to consider the trademarks and the patents as part of the journey.
I want to come back to the legal side of things from like the lawsuit perspective, because it's another interesting story that came up. Air Canada had to either settle or admit fault in the lawsuit altogether, where they had an AI chatbot that gave a full refund or flight credit to a
Mm,
customer
mm,
um, when it wasn't supposed to. based on the customer's, whatever was their complaint or their flight situation, per Air Canada's terms of service, the person did not qualify for a comp. But the AI chatbot gave them a comp. Now, Air Canada noticed this, and the humans stepped in and tried to take that away from this customer. And their defense, which did not hold, was that even though all their marketing says the AI is us, when it came time to defend it in court, they said, "Oh, that was the AI; it wasn't us." And that defense did not hold up in court. Did you see this story at all? I'm just curious, just hearing it at least at the surface level. If not, like, what's your take on that?
I did not see this story, but the outcome did not surprise me because this is traditional rules of they call it agency in law, right? So if you have somebody that you grant them the authority to act on your behalf, or even if you didn't grant them, if they have apparent authority to somebody else, and that agent, agreed to something, then you're bound by that. So, and that's for a human agent. So I think the court simply is just extending it now to a computer agent. And if anything, I think you're going to be bound more by your computer agent than human because,
And
well, I
human
mean, you
error,
control
yeah,
the algorithm, right?
yeah,
So I guess that's an expensive lesson for Air Canada, and
yeah.
it's something that you may want to check on your chatbot, make sure it doesn't have the complete free range to give away the everything for you, right? But I think what
Yeah.
you're saying, that trend is very interesting because now what we're talking about, the technology is moving toward what is called agentic AI,
Mhm.
i.e., agents that act and operate on your behalf. And I think we're going to see more and more disputes arising from this because let's say if I created an agent and I bless it with the ability to do certain functions, and it goes out, and then let's say it goes out and it bought something with my original instruction, but then later on I found out, hey, wait a minute, I could have bought that somewhere else at half price. Am I bound by that agent's decision that I created? And my guess feeling is the same precedents that Air Canada face is probably going to apply to you to that agentic AI. So I think that's going to be it's touching on a very interesting area of the law where now we're mapping the master agent kind of legal framework from a human to a machine perspective.
Well, I think it's convenient to say our AI is just as good as our humans, and you know trust us. And then only when it screws up do you say, "Well, actually, hang on, it's not as good as our humans, and you shouldn't have trusted what it said." It's. I don't think you get the. I don't think you're afforded the privilege of only associating with the benefits without having to also absorb the negatives or the drawbacks.
That's
And
right.
that's
That's right.
and now if we bring this down to a small company level, right, early stage startup, one of the challenges in AI right now is this hallucination, right, is the term that it's referred to. It's creating scenarios, whether that is from how it's applying an answer to you or how it's actually acting agentically. So I think a baseline example would be um, there's just something that I found out, a couple weeks ago. Um, I went to a college that has had an awful basketball program for the greater part of this century. I went to DePaul University, and DePaul has a storied basketball history, but in the last 20 years, the story has been losers. In my 4 years of college, we won a total of 4 conference games, total in 4 years. And I think 3 of those came in 1 year. Now, a few weeks back, I was trying to just see how has DePaul done, over since I graduated, right, in the last 15, 20 years, how has the program done? And I Google searched um, DePaul basketball wins since 2010 or something like that. And the answer that the Google Gemini AI result gave back was that DePaul has won, I think it says DePaul has won 2 games in the last 15 years, which is not at all true. Now, this program has been bad, but last year alone, they won 14 games. And what was even more interesting was not only did the summary results say 2 games, but the first hyperlink underneath that for as like a source in the preview text, it says last year DePaul won 14 games. Now that's a pretty harmless thing. And in my terms of service with Google, like there's nothing that it's like, I'm sure it says somewhere in there, like the answer we give you is not the ultimate fact. Like, do your research or whatever, whatever. However, I could see this being something that a founder is not thinking about because, you're really bullish on like getting the product in people's hands. You want people to use it. But beyond that initial test pilot group who's there to give you feedback, I think this also kind of lends itself to what's in your terms of service. And have you actually taken time to get that drafted properly?
Absolutely.
Because you know what? Air Canada can have that happen, and they're a massive company. And sure, they're going to take a PR hit, but they can also afford the lawsuit. There is not one early or even second stage startup that can afford a lawsuit.
Absolutely. I think the answer is going to vary according to the expectations, right? And at present, the expectation is that there's still hallucinations in the model, things are still wrong. And so you need to put that into the terms and the condition, and you basically have to, tell them, oh, there are risks in using this software, and you shouldn't rely on that without additional fact checking if it's important. So yeah, definitely have a term and condition that reflects accurately the potential downsides if people rely on your product. All right, and so. I think in the case of a Google, most people, they don't expect a whole lot out of the search results. And so therefore, the economic damage is, people expect that when you do a Google search, you're going to have to go and check things out yourself. The difference is, I think, with Air Canada is you are a customer of Air Canada, and if an agent there says, "Oh, I'm going to issue you a voucher for $50," you expect to rely on that statement. So I think the expectation setting is important, right? So my guess is that Air Canada has all sorts of disclaimers in its terms and conditions just as well, but it's in the way you interact with the website. What is the true expectations of a consumer? So if I'm getting from a chatbot, hey, you're getting $50 in credit, then obviously that I believe that more than if Google tells me, oh yeah, I'm going to give you $50 credit. So
Yeah.
I think the use case is going to dictate uh, the reliance on the statement of the AI.
Right.
So in the case of vibe coding, people know that vibe coding won't work all the time. I mean, that's an expectation. So you're not the vibe coding software company aren't going to get sued for code that code that is non-functional because that's a built-in expectation. So I think it's the user perceptive that's important.
Yeah. Shall we call it there? Any other things you want to cover?
Um, Yeah, I think I wonder. Yeah, I wonder we should explore a little bit more on the agent, the AI agent aspects. What interesting trends have you seen on AI agent, and then we can kind of map the legal perspectives to that.
Okay. So the Air Canada case was, it was a chatbot, but I think the next extension of that, which you used the term before, is agentic AI. That is the agent that is acting on behalf of an individual, and that agent is acting autonomously. It's I think it's AI 2.0 is agentic AI. So we're seeing it used a lot more. We're seeing a lot more conversation around it. From your perspective as an attorney in this space, well, one, I want to hear from your perspective as a consumer. What are the areas that you're excited about having agentic AI in, whether just for personal life or professional life? And then two, from your legal perspective, what are the things we need to be keeping in mind as we're building agentic AI solutions?
Yeah, I've been interested in autonomous agent for a long time. This is not a new topic. This was back in the year 2000 where they started with the Newton and they start talking about having agents going around and collecting facts from different websites. Um, so actually, I myself had a patent on agent back in the year 2000. And now as it evolved over time, you start using blockchain and micropayments. And so I think something very interesting is going to come up over the horizon is you have these uh, agents that can act, that you give it the authority to act on your behalf, and then take actions for you. So, for example, let's say next week I'm going to Japan and I need to have an itinerary set up of interesting things to see. And I need to buy tickets for all of these things. I need to arrange for car transportation. These things took, by a human, it'll take them like a couple of weeks of planning to do. And so if you have an AI that is combined with a finance mechanism, a payment mechanism, uh, with reasoning capabilities. I think that's a huge amount of possibility in terms of improving your assistants, the computer, the virtual assistants for you. And I think exactly these issues of agentic uh, authorization, master agent, master servant relationship. Do you delegate the power to this agent to do that? Uh, is going to become an important issue from an IP perspective and from a contractual perspective. Also, the code to verify the validity of the contract. So in blockchain they call it smart contracts, right? When certain conditions are fulfilled, the payment is made automatically. You're guaranteed. The problem is those codes can be hacked. Number one. Number two, they can have bugs into there. And I think there's going to be a significant amount of innovations involved before that picture turns into reality. So, and there's going to be a lot of new technologies and issues in trademark as well. So, how is it that a chatbot is going to recognize? Is there a difference between a McDonald human trademark versus a machine trademark? Is there a mechanism that says, "Oh, I'm a machine. I'm not going to care about McDonald, but are there other machine branding that I should rely on?" So I think all of these are very interesting things that are coming up. So
Are you using any agents in your business right now? And if so, how?
yeah, we use agents now to handle rejections from the patent office, where basically we train them on various things, small tasks like certain type of rejections, and they will automatically go and research and bring back things for us to review and think about. So the power of these AI we're using right now is really to help us organize our thinking and checking it before we use it. So it give you a menu list of items. And then you look at it and say, okay, I buy this, but I don't buy this. So yes, we're at the stage where we're uh, leveraging the agents, but not quite trusting it yet. At some point, certain things are going to be trusted, and they're just going to run on their own. But right now, these agents are run off and autonomously do the research and come back and saying, hey, you ought to consider X, Y, and Z. And so, yes, that's how we're using them. But eventually, they will be trusted, and certain functions are just going to be automated, and it's going to run on its own.
Okay.
Great.
Wrap up from there.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Very
Yeah.
insightful comments, Rajiv, and we look forward to next week or next month.
All right.